Welcome back to another recording of the Elevate Media Podcast. I am Chris Anderson, your host. And today, if you're watching, even if you're listening, you're going to realize we have a guest that we've had on before. So you might remember or recognize Justin from previous episode where we talked about health and tracking our health and putting the data behind it so you could actually know what's going on in your body. And, you know, it sparked in me. I actually went out and got a Whoop little health tracker to wear around because of that episode. And, you know, some unique stuff happened there. I'm sure we'll hit on it. But yeah, Justin, welcome back to the Elevate Media Podcast today.
It's so great to be here. I appreciate you bringing me back on.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Justin is the founder of Own It Coaching. And it's all about helping businesses, business owners reclaim their health and take ownership over that so they can be high performers. And so we're going to dive into, you know, we talked about data, like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
But today I wanted to dive more on the cellular level, on a deeper level of, you know, things that we might be missing, you know, deficiencies we might have in our bodies that are causing these issues, these ailments, these sicknesses that we can, you know, take control over. So, yeah, but like I mentioned, you know, last time we talked about the data, I invested in a Whoop bands. For those watching, it's just a little arm wristband you can watch, tracks. Yeah, Justin's got his, tracks all your data, sends it to an app, and you can see all that. And, you know, we talked about the HRV last time.
Yeah.
Heart rate variable, and many other things, sleep, all that stuff. It can connect to your food, which is what mine does. And so, yeah, it's been cool. And I've noticed, so I've had some times where I kind of felt a little off, and like I would look at my data on my Whoop band and it would tell me like, hey, your metrics, like your 4 out of your 5 metrics are all like wanky, like you're all over the place. Like breathing is up, your heart rate's up, your skin temperature is up. And I was like, well, I don't necessarily feel bad. And then like the next day I started to feel bad. So it was like giving me a heads up that I was coming down with something. And I just thought it was really cool to kind of make that correlation. Not that I got sick, but that I got the heads up with it. So.
No, I think the cool part about that, and this is kind of where I love to almost have a public service announcement, right? Is that data doesn't mean anything unless we know what to do with it.
Right.
And this is where a lot of these wearable technology pieces fall short. And it's where a lot of this health component gets so complex and convoluted for people because they have no idea what to actually do with it. And this is where Own It has become just such a powerful tool for entrepreneurs and business owners to step in, because you are the expert at what you're an expert in. If you are a marketing specialist, you're an expert in marketing. If you are a real estate agent, you are a expert in real estate. If you are a financial planner or have your own plumbing business, that is what you are an expert in. But you're not an expert in your health. However, at the end of the day, you can only lead to the degree that you're healthy. And so this is why we truly focus on being able to redeem the health of business owners so that they can maximize their potential and impact in this world. And that is what is on our hearts. That is what we have been built for. This is the company, the health company that has been built for entrepreneurs and business owners by entrepreneurs and business owners, because we know the unique struggles, the unique difficulties, the unique types and ways of life, the unique way of thinking that avatar functions, because that is us as well. And so that's who we've been built for. And so I want to go back to your comment earlier about, hey, I looked and I saw 4 of my 5 metrics were out of whack.
Yeah.
And then the next day I started to feel bad. Well, here's the thing that often happens. Number one is people will say, well, if I didn't look at my metrics, would I actually have felt bad the next day? Because it's like, was it almost like because my metrics were low, I had a thought planted in my head that, oh, my metrics are going down, so I'm actually not going to feel well, and thus the next day I didn't feel well.
Right.
Same thing of, oh, my metrics are great, and thus the next day I did feel well. So I want to nip that in the bud right away. Is what happens with a lot of these wearable tools is they create algorithms. They create their own algorithms, thus their own IP that makes them valuable. This is why I hate algorithms. This is why I hate a lot of these wellness scores or recovery scores or strain scores or whatever sleep scores, whatever scores you're giving. I don't like looking at them, and I don't like having people look at those numbers because, again, they're simple algorithms that do exactly what we just talked about. They create a preconceived notion of how somebody should feel and dictates what's occurring. And thus you're making a decision based off of feelings and emotions rather than actual data. What I prefer is looking at, like we talked about on our last show, one single metric, one number, which is heart rate variability. And when you look at heart rate variability, it is an amazing tool to help you understand how your body's adapting to stress and strain. Mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, your body doesn't know the difference. And so when you look at your HRV, you can now validate or redirect certain behaviors and habits that you engaged in the previous 24 hours to were they positive or were they negative in how your body actually responded. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you did a really difficult workout in the morning, and then you were on 10 back-to-back Zoom calls that all took massive mental fortitude. There was a couple difficult conversations with your content team. Maybe you filmed 3 podcasts that took a lot of energy. Then you had a conversation with your significant other that was a little bit difficult. Then you got home and there was a torrential downpour and a rain, and you had some stuff outside, so you had to do some cleanup. And then you were sitting down watching the football game because it's Labor Day weekend, and so you had a couple cocktails. And then you went to bed at 11:30, and then you got up this morning at 6. Well, that's a full day that a lot of people's days would probably start to look like.
Right.
Well, when you wake up in the morning, what does HRV say versus let's do a rewind to the exact same Monday. And now let's say you woke up, you did a really hard workout, you had those 10 Zoom calls, but in between the 10 Zoom calls, you got up and did a walk. You went out, maybe did a couple of those meetings while you were walking outside, changing up your environment. Right before you got home, you did some breath work. You went and had that difficult conversation with your spouse, and you got to some type of great outcome. And then sitting down, watching the football games, maybe you went and hit a sauna before you went and sat and watched the football games. And instead of a couple cocktails, you had some type of electrolyte beverage with club soda.
Yep.
If you compared those 2 HRV scores, the second person's HRV, the person who didn't take an alcohol, the person who is focused a little bit more on recovery, the person who got a better night's sleep, the person who gave themselves a little bit more environmental breaks in between those same stressful phone calls, the structure of the day didn't change, the habits and behaviors changed, and thus the person who didn't have the alcohol took the time for themselves and actually intentionally built their day, their HRV will be higher than the other person, I guarantee you. And that is how we now start to validate what is meaningful and purposeful, Chris, versus what is not. And so many people nowadays, especially in the health space, are told what they need to do, what they need to go and fit into their day, what they need to jam pack. They've got a laundry list, and they never actually get to it because they don't think it's sustainable. It's not able to be fit into their life. And it's just theoretically something that hasn't been built for them. And so they don't actually get the benefit because they don't know A, what the data is saying, B, how to implement it into their life, C, what habits actually align positively versus ones that are insignificant to actually make the changes that matter.
Yeah. And that's the biggest part is, making the changes that matter, like what's actually going to change and not just what everyone's saying you should do. And, my HRV on average this last month was 90. For those who don't know what that is, it's fine. But we can dive into a little bit, but there were moments obviously where it was lower, and on those days, like looking back, I'm like, yeah, those were days where I was, just going, or they were more stressful for whatever reason, and I wasn't doing things that help me mentally or physically, like recover or just kind of unwind. And it's a crazy correlation. I mean, not really crazy. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And so like now I was excited to have this conversation because how does that correlate to our cellular level? is there a direct correlation, or does our cellular makeup deficiencies, is that what dictates our HRV, or does the HRV help with what our cells are taking in or not, or what they need?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And it's a very steep cyclical downhill spiral or a very deep cyclical uphill spiral. It's either or, because I want you to think about this for a second. So we think about our cells. Our cells are literally the powerhouse to how our body functions.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is there's something inside the cell called the mitochondria. The mitochondria is that energy powerhouse. It's what creates what we call ATP, or otherwise energy, for the body to function. And so your cells drive everything. You and I having this conversation, our cells are having to do work. For me to go from a seated position to a standing position, our cells are having to do work. For our heart to beat, our cells are having to do work. To take in food, digest it, and produce energy, our cells are having to do work. Every single thing in our lives require the cells to function. Now let's go to the core of that. Okay, what does the cell require in order for it to do work? Vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. Our bodies need these 3 raw materials in order to function in any way, shape, and form. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids are the base level root raw material that our bodies need in order to function.
Right.
And so what happens is, if our body is deficient in certain vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, it would be like trying to start up a car and not having fuel in the tank. Right. It's like, hey, I know you're trying to turn the car over. I know you're trying to go, but the gas tank is empty. There's nothing there. It'll operate on empty for a little while, but you know you're going to burn some oil. You know you're going to burn some other things. It's not going to smell quite right. It's not going to run quite right. The car is going to start to do a little bit of, like, it shakes at certain times. There's things that are going to start to happen that are not normal. And that's how our bodies operate as well. Now, let's even go a step forward, because people will be like, oh, Justin, I get my blood test done once a year at my doctor's, or I've got signed up for 10X Health, or I've done Inside Tracker. I've done some type of blood testing, and I've looked at what's happening at my blood level.
Yep.
Big pause, because there's a massive difference between blood serum and cellular testing.
Yep.
And so all the things that I've aforementioned, 10X Health, Inside Tracker, your doctor's office that you go and get your blood testing done once, twice a year, your functional medicine doc, they all run what is called a blood serum panel, looking at the vitamin, mineral, amino acid level of the serum, basically what is freely flowing through the blood.
Yeah.
And it's possible to have high levels of vitamin D, high levels of vitamin A, high levels of vitamin K, high levels of leucine, isoleucine, taurine, which are all amino acids.
Yep.
Boron, calcium, all the different minerals. It's easy to have, or it's possible to have high levels of all of these at the serum level. But when you look inside the cell, you're actually deficient. And so a lot of people may have had the experience where they know they feel off.
Yeah.
They know, like, man, I'm not sleeping well, or maybe I'm falling asleep and not staying asleep, or maybe I'm lacking energy to actually get up and get going, or maybe I just feel odd in my body.
Yeah.
And you go and you get these tests done, and it comes back and you go, oh, you got a vitamin A deficiency, and let's pump you full of vitamin A, and that's going to solve the issue, and away we go. But then you're like, I've been taking this multivitamin, I've been taking this vitamin D3, I've been taking this immune supplement, I've been taking whatever supplement, I've got this massive drawer of supplements, but I really don't know if I feel any different. I feel the same as I did before. And all of a sudden you go and do your cellular testing, and you've got 15 different deficiencies at the cellular level. We'll go back to the same car analogy. It would be like if you went and you had an empty level on your tank. You went and you grabbed diesel, you put the diesel thing in, and you started squeezing, and you filled it up. It said gas tank full. And then you started to turn the car over, and the car still has the same weird function. It still sputters, it still shakes, it still doesn't do things the right way.
Yeah.
Because it's not a diesel engine. It's not using diesel. And so what's happening is you've got all these raw materials in the blood serum, but they're not getting into the cell for the body to be able to use.
Yeah.
And thus it's what that is called. It's called the bioavailability of vitamins, minerals, and amino acids.
Yeah.
And we don't look at the bioavailability. We don't measure the bioavailability. And so thus all we're looking at is what's present. And
Yep.
we're missing what's actually happening. And I've seen this hundreds of times by now over the last couple of years of our clients that have come through, when even clients that have gotten their blood testing back a week or a month prior to getting ours done, and they're like, Justin, I don't think I need that. And I'm like, please just step in because I'm telling you something's wrong. And they get it done and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Because my doctor said everything was great. My doctor said this was great. 10X Health said this was great. Insight Tracker said, oh, I just need this 5 supplements. And I took them and I just haven't felt any better. And now all of a sudden we do the cellular testing and we've got all of these deficiencies. And the best one is the people who are like, Justin, I've been taking a vitamin D supplement for 5 years. And my blood testing I get back always tells me I've got adequate vitamin D. But now at the cellular level, I'm majorly deficient. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't have the things necessary to bring it from the serum into the cell to be able to use. And that's why your body feels like it lacks energy, feels like it's missing out on things, and feels like it's not operating the way that it should be. And so I go back to your question of, does HRV impact cellular health or does cellular health impact HRV? And I want you to go back to the definition of HRV.
Yeah.
It is the message or the language as to how your body is adapting to stress and strain. Now, Chris, what do you think happens to your body if it doesn't have the raw materials in order to function properly? Does it increase in stress in making sure you function or decrease in stress making sure you function?
I would assume it increases in stress.
100%. And it's stress that you're unconscious of.
Yeah.
It's stress that your body is just having to do these things and work at an elevated level with decreased efficiency to be able to do the same things that you would expect it to do on a day-to-day basis. And so what happens is the harder we're working, the lower HRV becomes, and thus the lower HRV becomes, the harder we have to work.
Yeah.
And so it's this cyclical cycle that is so difficult until we do cellular testing to go, oh, this is what my custom supplement should be. We need to custom compound this. This is what my nutrition should look like. We need to customize it based upon the deficiencies. And once we start to eliminate deficiencies, efficiency goes up, internal stress goes down, and HRV increases. And that's this deep reciprocal relationship between those two.
Yeah. And that's a super important thing to understand is, what you might get in your blood test is just in the blood. It's not making it to the cell. So what are the biggest blockers, that are stopping these vitamins, minerals, amino acids from getting from your system in your blood to the cells itself? I'm sure there's plenty of things causing it, but are there some major ones that might be causing that deficiency?
Yeah, so really, really great. So a couple things. So number one, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and then there's other supporting nutrients or enzymatic nutrients that help with the absorption.
Okay.
Yeah. And so let's give vitamin D, for example. Everybody knows about vitamin D.
Right.
If you're deficient in vitamin D, it's not as simple as just saying, hey, Chris, here's a vitamin D pill. Take 10,000 IUs every week or 50,000 IUs every month. And this is what I want you to do. Or let's go get you a vitamin D injection every month. But yet that's how we treat it. That's how the doctors treat it. That's how your supplement companies treat it. They see deficient A means, oh, we're going to give you supplement A.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works. You see, vitamin D is only absorbed into the cell and upregulated, made bioavailable by vitamin K, calcium, and vitamin C. So now let's think about this in logical terms.
Yeah.
What happens if you have a vitamin C and a calcium deficiency? What happens to vitamin D?
It goes down.
Exactly. It doesn't get absorbed at the rate that's necessary. So even though you're taking high levels and high concentrations of vitamin D, you don't have the precursors to bind to them to bring it into the cell to make it bioavailable. And thus, you're just peeing a lot of it out and still staying deficient in vitamin D. And we don't think about it this way. And so the fact that we start to all of a sudden see, man,
It's more complex and more is needed to understand what my body needs. That's again why I come back to data is king. I don't want to make decisions that are just so generic and general. I want to get really specific and purposeful to what you need, so that then our team can run everything that we need to in order to make sure that we can create a single supplement that's built for you based on the deficiencies, so that we can have the right therapeutic dosing, that everything that's in here becomes bioavailable. And then we pair that with now your nutrition. So let's now give this, for example.
Yeah.
So somebody often goes, well, I don't eat fruit after noon, or I only eat fruit before noon, or I only eat vegetables and protein, or I'm on paleo or keto or Mediterranean, or I intermittent fast, or whatever it is. I always say if your diet has a name, it's the wrong one for you, because we actually don't know what you're deficient in. So now here's the cool part. We get to come back and we get to go, okay, Chris, you're dysfunctional or deficient in vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin B, boron, calcium, and leucine, isoleucine, and taurine. Amazing. We now see what we're deficient in.
Yeah.
And we can be like, you know what? Halibut, ground beef, ground turkey, and salmon are going to be your key sources of protein that you need to get at every single meal.
Okay.
Eggs are going to be super high in vitamin D, vitamin K, and your breakfast should be 4 eggs with, let's say, the steamed kale and a protein shake. Boom. There is the meal that's been built around the deficiencies that exist with your supplementation. And now we start to build out all of your snacks, all of your lunches, all of your dinners around that. So you now have options, not based around just this is what you have to eat, but based off of foods that have those micronutrients highly present and highly concentrated for the time in which we're eating, because your body's ever going to change and evolve and adapt.
Yeah.
And so as you start to eat differently and as you start to supplement differently, certain deficiencies are going to start to change. Maybe you start to travel more. Maybe the season changes. Maybe it goes from winter to spring, spring to summer, summer to fall, whatever it might be. Maybe you're in a season where you're traveling on planes a lot, so you're exposed to a lot more bacterias and viruses that your body has to fight off. So maybe vitamin C becomes deficient because it's being used so heavily, or maybe it's iron, or maybe it's I don't know, strontium or magnesium or boron or vitamin B12 or glutamine, whatever it is that's being used by the body, because maybe your training status changes. You're all of a sudden training for a marathon or whatever it might be. Your body uses, remember, raw materials, vitamins, minerals, amino acids for every single 100% of functions in the body. Thus, if we are looking at the deficiencies every quarter or every 6 months, we can start to change that up. Yeah. So you constantly feel energized, you constantly feel well, you're constantly giving your body the raw materials necessary at a bioavailable level for you to function at an elevated rate.
Yeah. And it's so crazy. So why don't you think, because it's crazy they don't do this, why don't you think like doctors and things like that test this? Why do they just do the blood serum test?
So
it fixes the problem and they lose money. No,
we can go down a whole different rabbit hole. However, I'll give you 3 reasons. Number one is cost.
Yeah.
So the cost to do something like this, it's a specialized test, and so when you're thinking about that, they're like, okay, insurance doesn't cover this, so that's a way that we can't just bill it. Number 2 is, if we look at this information and we actually go into it, I don't have time as doctor to actually start to put all of this stuff together that we just spoke about. And so if I look at this, I don't have a solution for you, because I don't custom formulate supplementation. I don't custom compound. I don't even prescribe supplementation. I prescribe prescriptions.
Yeah.
Medications. And so it's easier for me to look at the serum for what is wrong, what's broken, and fix it, rather than look at what is just what we're minus and what we're missing and do something preventable because I don't have the time nor the education, quite frankly. Yes, they're doctors, but they've never taken nutrition courses. They've never taken compounding courses. They've never taken this level of degree of understanding. Our medical system is so phenomenal at fixing things that are broken or being reactive to what's there. I have a bone sticking out of my body. I have cancer. I've got something that needs to be fixed. Get me to my doctor.
Yeah.
But I want to maintain my health. I want to be preventable in my health, preventable from sicknesses and proactive. Keep me as far away from there as possible because they've never actually gone down that route. So that's number 2. Yeah. And then number 3 is you come back to this concept of the financial piece again, right? There's no money in it for them from a sense of prescribing a custom supplement because at the end of the day, they don't get paid on that. And so I would really lean heavier to like reasons 1 and 2. The third one is just something that we have to call out because it's reality, but we can't think that on the back end, there's these doctors that are saying, oh, we just want to make them sick. I don't think that's happening. And I wouldn't ever put that on people, but I do truly believe that they don't do it because of the cost of testing. Number 2, because they really just don't know how to do it, how to implement it, and have the education to actually understand.
Yeah. Definitely a lot more work for sure. And it's just interesting because, we do have a lot of things that are preventable. If this could be mainstream, think how many people would be not as sick. We're not, worse off health-wise because they would have the education and understanding of what needs changed. And it's an interesting thing because, so I also coach high school soccer outside of business and family stuff. And we try to talk to kids all the time of like, what you put in your body is important. And like the nutrition wise, like you're breaking down muscle and all this stuff and trying to get them to understand that. And even at that level, it's hard for people to kind of grasp it and understand it unless you could like see the numbers kind of thing.
So I love what you're saying there because I always have I have this quote that I say often, and it's data determines direction or data drives decisions. And when we're talking to entrepreneurs and business owners, I come back and I usually say, run your body like you run your business. Yeah. There's nobody in business who would throw more marketing dollars into a campaign without looking at the data first. Data will determine your direction. Data determines your decisions. And so I don't like making decisions on the one thing that runs your body, runs your family, runs your business, runs your finances, runs everything. It's you. Yeah. You are the asset. And the one thing that is the most important thing to us, we fail to use data. We go off of feelings and emotions. Yeah. And until we're aware of where our feelings and emotions are coming from, there's no way we can actually make a purposeful decision as to what is right for you. And so the moment that we can use this targeted information of HRV and cellular testing, that's when we start to win. That's when we start to get hyper personalized. You're going to eat anyways. You're going to supplement anyways. You're going to exercise anyways. You're going to try to get some level of rest and recovery anyways. Why not make it so personalized that we can maximize time, maximize efficiency, and maximize outcomes so that results become inevitable and we're not wasting time, wasting energy, and wasting resources. And that's what we're all about for the business owner and the entrepreneur so that they can focus on what they're great at and they can have more energy, more time, and more clarity in doing what it is that they have been called to do.
Yeah. So with this cellular deficiency test, what is the turnaround time? Is it like a blood test and then you wait a week and you get the results, or how's that work?
Yeah. So what will happen is as soon as you get the order in or order it through us, what will happen is our team will send you the kit right to your home. You'll do an onboarding call with our medical team. They will then book a phlebotomist to come to your home, to your office, to wherever it is. They'll get the blood draw. So all of that I just spoke about happens in about 3 days. And then as soon as the blood draw is done, about 7 to 10 days later, you will have a debrief call with our medical team going over all of the results. And then from there, they are able to give you that nutritional breakdown. They're able to give you your custom compounded supplement. And then at that point, you can either say, hey, I want to dive in and go into a little bit more coaching and a little bit more of everything together. Or you can just say, hey, this is great. I want to go and just do the custom compound supplementation. Or you can say, hey, I'm going to try to go figure all of this out on my own and go that way. So you really have 3 options after you get that done. But your turnaround time is about 10 to 14 days total from the day of clicking, ordering, and getting it done.
Okay, cool. And then once you have the results, you mentioned, having you guys do the compounding of the supplements. Is there something different that you guys do versus like, oh, I know what I'm deficient in, I'm going to go get those supplements in the store and just take them?
So here's the thing, right? Is like when we custom compound, we're therapeutically dosing everything together. So you're just having one supplement that you have to take. There's maybe, depending on deficiency level, somewhere between 3 and 8 tabs a day. And then you have the option of whether you get it in pill form or whether you get it in powder form. So you can just mix it in with a smoothie in the morning or whatever it may be. So your choice. However, we go back to your question. It's like, well, could I just go and start taking everything as normal? And the answer is yes. But let's go back to what I mentioned before. Is it's not as simple as saying, oh, I have 8 deficiencies, thus I need 8 different products.
Right.
You probably need somewhere close to 15 to 25 products based on upregulators, based off of cofactors, based off of enzymatic breakdown deficiencies, and how everything kind of relates to itself. Because you could just have, let's go back to vitamin D, right? You could just have a vitamin D deficiency. But at that level, we probably have to look at calcium. We probably have to look at vitamin K. We probably have to look at vitamin C. And then let's forget about what actually activates vitamin C. Let's forget what activates calcium. Let's not forget what activates vitamin K. And so it's this deep interactive web that our team has just become experts in being able to now build something for you so that we can help you and take that step forward. And that's where, for us, like anything, we know that personalization, we know that consistency, and we know that adherence is the easiest way to maximize outcomes.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I just think it's interesting. And I think this is awesome. Again, I think this should be mainstream. But that just comes from me with the background in athletic training and things, health and human performance. I'm like, this is like preventative is what we should do. Like,
yeah.
And if we could get this, that'd be awesome for everybody. But no, this has been just a fantastic conversation, Justin, and just diving into like how that cellular level works and how, the difference in those tests and how things have to be compounded differently because if you're deficient in one thing, the things that, help it bind to the cells, you might be deficient in those as well. And this has been a really just fascinating conversation. And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, whoa, like that's crazy. Like I'm interested, but still a little unsure. Justin, where do people go to find out more, to connect with you and maybe even, jump on this testing?
Yeah. So I don't usually do this, but I mean, Chris, this is the second time I've been on here. I just love being able to lean in with you here. So if you go to ownittesting.com, OWNIT testing.com, and I'll actually activate the code EMG. So just for Elevate Media Group. And if you type in EMG at checkout, we'll actually give you your cellular testing, your phlebotomist, your onboarding, your debrief call, everything at cost. So everything of what it costs us, which is really, really cool. So if ownittesting.com and then just use the code EMG, you'll be able to get started and get that testing done. You'll have an onboarding call with our team. They'll send the phlebotomist right to your home and really be able to give you this information, this knowledge, and this wisdom so that you can move forward powerfully.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, everyone, make sure you take them up on that. Check out what they're doing and connect with Justin. And, more importantly, take control of your health because you're the captain of your ship. And if you go down, the whole thing goes down. So it's super important when running a business to stay on top of your game. and not let it slide, because with everything else you got going on, that seems to be the first thing people kind of let go is their health and themselves. And we got to be the opposite way around.
And I think just something to touch on is people let that go, not because they don't think it's important, not because they don't value it, but because traditionally they've lost there.
Yep.
They haven't had success there. They haven't seen it as a huge priority because they haven't been able to win themselves. And so when you can't win yourself in an area, it starts to fall down the totem pole in terms of priority because you haven't figured it out. So I'm going to spend my time and energy on my investments, on my business, on my family, on my real estate portfolio, because that's where I'm winning. That's where I feel good. That's where I gain confidence. And just because I don't look after my health today doesn't mean that I'm in a serious issue tomorrow. And so we live in this area of continual commitment over the word has just totally escaped me. I don't know why. Compromise. I don't know why that word escaped me. But we're either committed to something or we're compromising.
Yep.
And we continually compromise. And over the course of time, it starts to be like death by 1,000 cuts. Mm-hmm. And so I want to help people stop compromising their health just because they haven't won there and they've traditionally lost. And so at the end of the day, what we always say is we help business owners and entrepreneurs win in their health for theoretically the first time so that they can step into elite health, just as they have that same standard for their business, for their family, and for how they live.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is another fantastic conversation. Make sure you go check out the first episode Justin and I did together. Share this with someone who's really trying to, up their game, up their health, just elevate their lives in general. And together we can help a lot more people. But Justin, again, thanks so much for being on the Elevate Media podcast again.
No, I appreciate you so much for having me, Chris, and look forward to chatting with you again.
For sure. Absolutely. So, all right, guys, until next time, continue to elevate your life, elevate your brand, and we'll talk to you again soon.